So, hello, we're here today with Jackie Mott, who's an alum from Quinnipiac. She graduated in 2015 with a degree in mathematics. And she's going to talk to us a little bit today about her career path and how she got started doing what she's doing now. Jackie, hello.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Oh, great. So tell us a little bit more about, I know I just said you majored in math, but tell me more about your academic background, what you thought you might be doing, and then also how that prepared you to start doing what you are doing.
So as a math major, I always knew I loved math. I always wanted to do math. Didn't quite know what I wanted to do with it. I took some education courses, decided that wasn't for me. I was also a business minor, which I picked up later, really my junior and senior year. Math, like I said, I love it, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And though it doesn't directly apply to, what I'm doing now, I think I gained a lot of skills from being a math major that kind of indirectly helped me. So I think, a lot of my courses helped me develop an analytical type of mind and analytical skills, critical thinking skills that kind of applied to, my first position here, which was finance assistant. So that's how I started here at the Thunder. Now I'm the box office manager, and I think those skills that I developed were really important in, the positions I've had and where I am now.
Okay. And so obviously having that major and not being sure where to go, you clearly found an area that was passionate for you, a thing that you really loved and wanted to go after. Can you talk to us a little bit about the process that you used to find the job that you're in?
Yeah. So late in my senior year, I realized I wanted to work in baseball, and I've always loved baseball as well. And this is kind of coming full circle for me a little bit, Rick, because you were the one who actually suggested that I try to start in the minor leagues, first of all. And you also suggested that I attend the baseball winter meetings, which I did. Which is basically a big conference that happens every December. And part of it is that Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball host a job fair. So I went with an open mind, and, I was willing to do a lot of different things just to get my foot in the door. I applied to a lot of jobs. I actually got a lot of interviews, and, I ended up getting an offer from the Thunder to be finance assistant, and it was a really good fit for me. And at the time, it was just a foot in the door for me, but it also made a lot of sense. Those analytical skills kind of applied to the finance position, even though it wasn't direct. But yeah, I always wanted to do math. I always loved baseball, and I initially thought I might take a different route with it, but now that I've gotten to the point where I am as the box office manager, I think it's a really good fit, and I enjoy it.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And I think you were able to do something which I think is challenging for some students when they're first starting out, which is you were open to, you had a focused place where you wanted to get into baseball, and that was your target, but within that goal, you were really flexible about what you could do, right? And taking those opportunities as they came. And what you're doing now is very different from how you started. So tell us a little bit about sort of how it's all been within one organization so far, but how your career progressed, how you got from your starting positions to where you are now.
Yeah, so the finance assistant position was actually seasonal. So I knew it would end in October of that year, after the baseball season was over. And very shortly after that, the team actually created a new position, a new full-time position, which was to be the database manager. And at the time, that also made so much sense for me because it involved analyzing customer data, and looking at numbers to, ultimately end up helping increase sales. It was a brand new position, and the timing was just right that, my prior position just ended, and, I applied for that one, and that also was a really good fit for me. So I was hired there, and I did that for a couple of years, and in my second year, I was also basically the assistant. So since I worked in the box office and I worked closely with the salespeople, I worked closely with the box office manager. So he kind of took me under his wing, the box office manager, and I learned a lot about what he was doing. And then once again, it was just a very natural progression once he actually ended up leaving for a new job. it made a lot of sense, and I applied for that and I was promoted. And I think this whole time, each of the three positions that I've had, even though they're all kind of different, and the first one was finance, was a completely different department, and then the two other positions, I still think that having my math background and my analytical background, I think made me perfect for each position that I was in.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think having gone through a lot of those different things, I think I can see just from looking at your path, right, that each one built on what came before it, and every skill kind of added to your ability to do the next thing you were done. So I'm going to take it back even a step further. Imagine yourself as the junior or senior that you were when you were still here, and thinking about what you do now and what you know now. What do you wish you knew then that you know now?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I wish I knew was just to not worry that much, because I wish I knew that I would find something that would work for me. I was very frantic at that time, and didn't know what I wanted to do. On the flip side, there was a part of me too that I wanted to do statistics in baseball, like more player statistics. I had a math background, and I loved baseball, and I wanted to do sabermetrics. And I wish I knew then that it would be so hard to go back to school after you start working. So, if you don't want to go to grad school, that's totally fine. But there was a part of me that thought I kind of wanted to, and thought I wanted to go that route with it. But I knew I had to get a deeper background in stats, not just math. And I kept saying, oh, maybe I'll go back. But for now, I'm just going to stick with the Thunder. I'm in a good spot. And I truly believed that, I truly enjoyed each position that I've been in here. But as more time went on, I said, you know what, my priorities are changing, and I don't want to go back to school now. So I kind of wish back then that I knew that would have been the better time to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge for a lot of students to identify sort of if grad school is necessary, and then if it's necessary, where it fits best in their career path, and then
Right.
whether or not they personally also kind of, some folks it's difficult to go back afterwards regardless of life situation, and it's trying to figure that out along the way is a difficult thing to do. I'm wondering a little bit about mentorship. So did you ever have anyone within the your career so far in baseball has been in this one organization, but have you had anyone either within the organization or outside it in some capacity serve as a mentor for you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any formal mentor, but my second boss here, when I was the database manager, I felt that he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And, one thing that I really took away from working closely with him was to just gain. I think so when you pair that with coming into a new position that didn't exist before, where there were people who were very skeptical of it and didn't want to really listen to me. It was hard for me at first. And I think, my previous boss then really helped me with my confidence, and, helped me stand up for myself and say, no, this is what I'm doing. And these are my ideas. And, I'm here for a reason.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's always helpful, whether it's formal or informal, having somebody that you can lean on in your work environment to give you those kinds of sort of almost the insider tips and the support as you go through is a really great thing.
Absolutely.
Networking is a huge part of what we all do. And I think in some industries more than others, it's really critical. I'm wondering, particularly within your industry, if there is a method or a tool or some other aspect of networking that might be specific to baseball that folks might need to know about if they wanted to get into it.
I don't think there's necessarily something super specific. I know for me, when I started as database manager in that brand new position, a lot of teams didn't have someone like that, but some did. And so I actually just ended up looking up people who worked for other teams and reaching out to them just to say, hey, can we share some ideas? And that worked really well. Actually, I got some help and some advice from people at other teams. But I think that the biggest place and way to network in minor league baseball is a few of the events that we have each year. So every year we have something that we call the Innovator Summit, which was virtual this year, of course. But that's a place where, a lot of people from all their ideas. We also have something just for our league specifically. So, the Thunder's in the Eastern League, there's only 12 teams. So that gets to be a little bit more personal. And, if you have the opportunity to attend one of those meetings, it's really the best time to get together with other people across other teams and just share ideas and see what other people are doing. And what's great about it too is that we're not really overlapping in our markets too much. So everyone's very happy and open to share ideas because it's not like someone's going to steal our idea and it's going to take away from us. So everyone is really willing to work together and share ideas.
Yeah, I think that's great, particularly when you have scenarios like that one where you can share, you're not worried about it hurting each other, so you can kind of share pretty openly. It's a great way to make sure you stay current and people kind of help each other. And it's nice to have that little community inside a community and, just within the industry. So let's talk for a second about the community outside that little bubble. Is there within baseball, is there a website or a blog or a podcast or anything that you use that helps you sort of stay informed about the industry that would be critical for somebody coming into the industry?
Not really a blog or something where we can post and other people can, other people in another team can read it, but I definitely just keep up with other teams on social media. I mean, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, I follow minor league baseball teams. I follow Major League Baseball teams in football, soccer, hockey, all the different sports. I really do. And I think a lot of people in this industry do, because that's the way the world is going. And, everyone is promoting themselves on social media. And so that's definitely a really important way to see what teams are doing. That's how you find out what promotions people are doing, what kinds of new ticket packages they're doing. And in minor league baseball, theme nights are a huge thing. Social media is really the best place to see what everyone's doing in terms of all that.
Yeah, I think that's helpful to think of too. Some folks may not right away think of social media as a research tool into what others do as much as it is, informational or promotional right and I think the other thing you mentioned, which I think is interesting, that folks, again, outside, we'll say sports as a whole, may not recognize is the degree to which you might need to pay attention to what an NHL team is doing, right? It is the ideas are transferable across the sports and across the levels of play and everything else. I used to talk about things like that and say all the best ideas are stolen, right? You go out and find it and adapt it to you, and you can make it really work. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of hiring. And you may yourself not have been in a position to hire anybody yet, but I think just from your perspective in the industry and having gone through the hiring process and seen how it works in your organization, if somebody were showing up at the doorstep of the Trenton Thunder and was looking for a job, if you were looking at a resume, what's the most important thing that you'd be looking for?
Yeah, I actually have hired myself too, because we have seasonal assistants in the box office. And for me, and I might be a little bit biased because I'm so heavy on the analytical side, but I'm really looking for some form of critical thinking. We get a lot of applicants that, and that's great. But, if all you're showing me is that, you've played baseball before and maybe you've worked on a golf course or something, that's great. But I really want to see some form of critical thinking. So, whether that be from a part-time job or an internship, or even if it's just something that you've done in college in terms of some kind of paper or project for a class, but something that shows maybe you created a business plan or some maybe you were in charge of scheduling or keeping track of data or something like that. To me, that is a skill that kind of shows that you're, able to be working in an office environment and working in a business.
Okay. So now let's talk about the negative side. So if I come and present my resume to you, is there something that might be sort of an industry-wide, or to yourself personally, a red flag where you might be not so interested in hiring that person?
I don't know if there's something that's necessarily such a red flag, but if someone doesn't really know how to sell themselves, I think that bothers me, or that might not be someone that I'm going to really consider. So obviously, if you're trying to get an entry level position, you're not necessarily going to have experience that directly relates to the job that you're applying for. Someone can be very simple about the way that they list the experience that they've had, but you really can use your resume to use descriptive language and just tweak the way you explain something to show that it can be applicable somewhere else. And I've gotten a lot of resumes that don't do that, and they're very straightforward. So I guess being too straightforward and not really trying to sell yourself, I guess that would be a red flag for me.
Excellent. I think that's a very good point. And that's, I think there are some industries where that might even be more important than others, but I think that that's true for any candidate and any job. If you can't do that well, you just put yourself at a disadvantage overall. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to come and interview with you for a job, what's the one most important question that I need to be able to answer for you?
I think it's really important for you to just be able to tell me why the experience you have can apply to this job, and what you think you've done and what about yourself will make you successful at this job, which kind of sounds obvious and straightforward. But I think there's a lot more to it than just listing off, okay, this is what I've done at this job, this is the college that I went to. But I really want you to be able to explain, like, I did this, I gained this skill, I think this can be applied to this, and this that you need in this job. I think that's really important. And it also, I think when you ask, or personally, when I ask that question generally, it leaves it up to the candidate to kind of go where they want with it. Because I think sometimes in interview questions, I know I've ended up at the end of some interviews and felt that I didn't really get to explain what I wanted to say and why I think I would be good for that job. And I always think it's really important to give the applicants that chance to go which way they want with it and explain why they really think that they would be successful at the job.
Yeah, I think that's critically important. And I think that it's also the part that's sort of unspoken there is that in order for me to do that well as a candidate, I need to know you well. I need to have researched the organization and what you do and where you fit. Where do you sit in the league? Where do you sit in the industry overall? And that's going to allow me to do that. And that's the step that a lot of people often leave out, right? Is really prepping in advance. So now, what about the flip side? So it's my chance to ask you questions. What's a question I could ask you that might make me stand out as a candidate?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily makes you stand out, but I think it's really, really important for you to ask me what a day would really be like doing this job. I can list off job requirements and qualifications, but if you don't show me that you really want to know what a typical day is going to be like doing this job, then I don't think that you're really envisioning yourself doing it. It's kind of my job to figure out if I feel like you would be good in that position, but it's your job to find out what you would be doing and if you really want to do it. Because if you don't ask the right questions and then you come into the job and it's not what you expected, or you don't like it as much, then you're probably not going to do your job as well, and then it's going to hurt both of us.
Yeah, good. So now let's take it the next step. So we've prepped our resume, we came in, had a great interview, we got hired, we got the job. The next step is trying to move up. So is there any one particular thing that you can point to that might help someone be successful in the industry and advance in the industry overall?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously you need to work really, really hard. You can't just sit here and do your job. You need to go beyond, just doing your job requirements. In minor league baseball, sales is huge, and sales is the most important thing. It's the biggest department by far. There's going to be the most opportunities to advance in the sales department. So even if you're not necessarily trying to get promoted into the sales department, even if you're going for another job, making sales calls in your current job is going to be the one thing that makes you stand out. Even if it's out of your comfort zone, even if it's not the job that you're trying to apply for, sales is so important in this industry. And anyone who's hiring in this industry is going to look at that. Even if you don't necessarily make a sale, but if you sit down and you make those cold calls, and whether you're told to or if it's on your downtime, that's going to make you stand out. As opposed to someone else who maybe is just as hardworking as you and maybe deserves the job just as much as you do. But if you're the one who sat down and made those sales calls, you're going to have that upper edge in this industry.
So now I'm going to ask you the hardest question for anybody to answer right now. Things change over time, and in this current situation that we're in, it's hard to predict with any reliability what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 5 or 10 years from now. But where do you see the industry going over the next 5 or 10 years?
I definitely see everything being turned more to digital, more to online stuff, in many different aspects. In other words, stuff is very general, but if you just take what I said about, my prior position as database manager, that was brand new, and a lot of teams still don't have someone in that role, just using analytics on customer data to increase sales. I think that's gonna grow a lot. I think in terms of things that I'm doing right now, in the box office as box office manager, everything's going to be switching from paper tickets to online tickets only. We're kind of in a hybrid right now, but we're going to start switching to doing everything online if we can. And that's also going to probably eliminate a lot of, people walking up to the box office to buy tickets, which in turn, maybe we won't have as many people working at the box office windows in the future. And then in terms of marketing as well, like I said, that when you're looking for industry trends and you're trying to see what other teams are doing, I said that I'm looking at social media, and that really is it. And, teams are really starting to focus more of their marketing on Facebook advertising and things like that. And they're turning away from billboards and more traditional marketing. That's the age we live in. It's been like that. It's been going in that direction for a long time now. And then now, especially with, the pandemic and people social distancing, and we don't know how long that's going to affect us, obviously, but, with that or without it, I think everything is just moving more online.
Okay, great. And so last question is, I just turn it over to you. Is there, we've talked about a bunch of different topics today. Is there anything that we missed that would be important? Again, imagine yourself, dial back the years a little bit, and you're sitting in a chair at Quinnipiac watching this. Anything we need to know that we didn't talk about today?
Oh man, I don't know. I think just to sum it all up, if you don't know what you want to do necessarily with your major, it's completely okay. Just look at the skills that you are developing and building through that major and through your education, and see where you can go with that. You develop skills that can be applied to other things. So I think that's, something really important to keep in mind. And then on the flip side, if you're really passionate about something and you find out that, going to grad school or maybe it's changing your major, or if you find out that you can do something that's going to put you on a better path, then don't waste any time and just do it, go with it. Either way, if you're passionate, go with it. If you don't know what you want to do, focus on your skills and you'll find something and you'll find a place.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today and having this conversation. I think our students are going to benefit from it greatly. And good luck with the remainder of your off season and going into next year.
Thanks so much, Rick. It was great speaking with you today.
Thanks.